Okay, so to start off, I wanted to let you guys know that this build is just to get you guys running at Ultra at 50 to 60 FPS. And for those of you who are not sure if you want to get into PC gaming, this is a really nice and fairly cheap gaming build to help you guys out because, quite frankly, if you want to be stuck on Xbox with all those immature players, then go ahead, be my guest. But if you want to actually take a step up, come play on PC. There's plenty of great players, and there's a lot more sportsmanship if that's really possible in a game. So I'm actually planning on making a video all about why to go to PC, and I'm in the process of making that. So if you check the link in the description, you guys can check that out, and I have a bunch of great tips and pointers in there. So some footage of what we'll be looking at and what you'll be playing on PC. And yes, it will be playing on Ultra. A little later in this video, I'll have more footage on that. So to start off with, we have cases, and that's the Cool Master Elite 120 Advanced Mini ITX. And that's the smaller one that you see on the screen. And then there's also the Rosewell Challenger U3, and both of them are $50, and it mainly depends on whether you're looking for compactability or if you want more space. I would personally go with one with more space. That's the one I'm using on my current build too, just because it helps with heating, and it comes with 3 fans. So next in line we have the AMD FX 6300. That's running at $120. This thing can run it on Ultra just fine, no problems. Multitasking, say you want to do some video rendering in the background, then it might become a little hesitant. I'm not really sure. I've never actually tried video rendering on top of playing video games and maybe Internet Explorer or whatever, but it should handle everything just fine. So for the graphics card, we have the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 560 Ti, and it's the EVGA version, and it is 2 gigabytes. So this card is actually a lot better than you'd think for the money, and it can run, as you can see in the footage before and the footage I'll be showing a little later, that it can run just perfectly fine at 50 to 60 FPS, no lag with drops at, you'll see it later, but I think the very lowest I ever saw was about 40 FPS, and that was in some really intense fighting scenes on some really good maps. So get that. The reason I go with NVIDIA is because they are a lot more trusted, and their product support is a lot better, and their driver updates as well. They're more guaranteed to have them more often. In fact, they just had about 3 or 4 more drivers that they sent out, and that's just as Battlefield 4 has come out. So next, we have the motherboard, and that's the ECS A960M M3, and that's $30. It's actually a really cheap motherboard, but it performs just fine. It should fit in the case perfectly well, along with all the other components. And I'm not really looking at a really high-end motherboard, because obviously you don't need a really high-end motherboard on a build like this. So next up we have the RAM, and we're looking at a G.Skill Ripjaws X Series 4 gigabytes, and that'll be costing you about $42. I've seen it with my own eyes. It can easily run on Ultra. Maybe 3 gigabytes. I really wouldn't push it, especially if it's not really compatible with the motherboard. I didn't really look into whether 3 gigabytes was compatible with this motherboard, but 4 gigabytes you should have no problem. And if you really think 4 gigabytes is too little, which in my opinion it's kind of cutting the line, which is pretty much what this build is, cutting the line for Ultra. But if you want 8 gigabytes is going to cost you about $75, and same G.Skill series, everything's fine with. So next in line we have a 1 terabyte HHD. I think it's pronounced Seagate Barracuda, and the reason I didn't go with 500 gigabytes or 720 gigabytes is because that's about a $5 to $7 difference, I noticed, and I personally would rather spend $5 to $7 to get twice the amount of storage space as, 1 terabyte. So lastly, we have the power supply, and that's a 550 watt LOG ISYS, and It's not the highest end, because obviously this isn't a super high-end build. It's probably going to be higher end than your Xbox One power supply, but it'll easily get the job done with the components that I've chosen. And if you plan on upgrading any of those components, you might want to think about upgrading the power supply. And so now onto the footage. So here, as you can see, no drops really below 40, and it sometimes even gets up to 70 or 80 FPS, which is extremely good for this, especially this quality, and running on a big 64-player map like this. So if you guys like this video, please subscribe, rate, or share with your friends.